Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to answer one of the common questions I get out there, and it's Jason, you're doing speed work again. You have a lot of your clients do speed work year round. Why are you doing this on the classic lifts? It is actually a controversial topic, even among the best coaches, as to if the speed work itself actually carries over to the classic lifts. And the reason people say this is that the classic lifts can be done slowly for a 1 rep max. In other words, you see plenty of people who set world records in a squat, bench, or deadlift who grind it slow, right? They're slow, they're grindy. And the argument made is that, well, it may not carry over. Now, we could get into a lot of debates of exactly what's going on with that part of it and how it carries over, how you time the number of reps you do and everything to correspond with what your grindy 1 rep maxes look like in terms of actual bar time, everything else. But I don't think we need to get into that today. What I want to discuss with you guys is why speed work still works, even if it doesn't increase speed. And I know that's going to sound like a contradiction, but when you look at the biomechanics of all of it, like for example, I'm doing very long range of motion variations here. I'm doing deficit deadlifts in this, and I'm doing deep box squats that are like 3 inches below parallel, deeper than I would ever need to go on an actual back squat in competition. Okay, so we're moving the weight through a long range of motion here. And I've been doing a lot of my speed work that way, and a lot of people do choose to do it that way, to where it's actually a longer or more difficult range of motion than we would use. So when we start thinking in terms of hypertrophy and conditioning, speed work itself falls into hypertrophy and conditioning work if done correctly. So there's other perks to doing it, even if the velocity doesn't carry over. Okay, even if the velocity itself is not fully trainable and doesn't matter. All right, so when we look at a lot of this, what are we dealing with? Usually we're exploding with the weight as hard and as fast as we can, and usually with large amounts of contrast weight, chains, bands, things like that, so that we have to continue to accelerate the weight because it gets heavier as we get into the other points. Okay. Now, there is something to be noted there for people who don't have contrast weight. That's, again, its own topic. Some people don't respond to it as well if they don't have it, and I think that's largely due to not getting the higher muscle fiber recruitment from the hypertrophy side for people who don't have it. So the hypertrophy is the first thing that we need to cover. All right, so we are taking a weight and we are accelerating it as hard and as fast as we can. And let's say you do 12 sets of 2 or 10 sets of 3 or 10 sets of 2 or whatever it is you're going to do. Now, in the case of the workout I did in this video, it was 12 sets of 3 with a box squat and the deadlift. The vlog is up, by the way. That's a separate vlog. This is just training clips from one session just spliced together. Right, I vlog all this stuff individually, so this is not the order I did these in, obviously. But when you're doing that and you are using compensatory acceleration, there's a reasonable amount of evidence out there in the exercise science world that suggests that when you move a weight as quickly as possible, we still hit upper threshold muscle fibers. In other words, the bar speed matters, not just weight on the bar. Okay, why does weight on the bar matter? Weight on the bar matters because it creates tension, right? And we need to create force to move a heavy weight. And by creating force, the muscles have to do that. And if the muscles create force, they recruit muscle fibers. It isn't a difficult concept for most people to grasp. Well, why do we want to recruit muscle fibers? So that we can fatigue them and force them to grow. In other words, again, not a difficult concept for most people to grasp. If you make your muscles do work repeatedly, and work is defined as producing force, right? People say, well, it could be defined as moving something. No, because if it's a stationary object, you could push against it pretty dang hard and do a lot of work. You can create a lot of force without moving a wall or without being able to pull a deadlift completely up that hits pins to a rack bolted to the floor. You might be producing 600 pounds of force and that bar is not moving. So it's not always moving something. It's about creating force with your muscles so that you stimulate the muscle fibers and you stimulate and fatigue them. Well, with speed work, we're exploding. We're creating maximum force on every rep. Therefore, done correctly, every rep hits upper threshold fibers. Normally, we only see that with slower tempo lifting You only see that when you get within 5 reps of failure. So if you fail rep 11, you hit upper threshold fibers probably on reps 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? They hit upper threshold fibers. And they get more and more fatigued the closer you get to failure, and you probably completely fatigue them on rep 10, so when you go to do rep 11, the weight doesn't move. You fail it, okay? So that would be a 10 rep max, done to failure. Well, if you're doing speed work like this and you're doing a bunch of doubles, if you are accelerating the weight maximally, you're hitting those upper threshold fibers just like on rep 6, 7, 8. You're hitting them. So when you think of it in those terms, let's say you did 3 sets to failure. You know that you got 5 completed reps. It got within 5 reps of failure. That's 15 high quality reps. That's 15 reps where you know, if you reached muscle failure, you know that on 5 of the reps in each of those 3 sets that you got there, right? You got a training effect from those. 15 quality reps. Okay. If we use compensatory acceleration and you do 10 doubles as fast as you can with the appropriate loading, with the right percentages and everything else, like I'm doing here, that's 20 quality reps. Okay. Go back and check that math back over. That's about the same number of quality reps as if we did 4 sets to momentary muscle failure. Right? You're going to get a hypertrophic response from this? Yes. Yes. You're going to get a hypertrophic response. Number 2, we do these with short breaks. Anyone who has not done speed work, true speed work like this, who doesn't do any cardio or conditioning, what's the first thing that they tell you? Especially on squats and the deadlifts. They're like, I was laying on the ground by the time I was done. Out of breath. Okay, because these speed pulls, I think I do these with 30 to 45 seconds between each set. I do a minute between the squats for, like, in this case, 12 sets of each were done on that day. All right, 12 sets of each. When you think of that in terms of conditioning, the explosive component has an athletic component. All right? And you're still doing a lot of work. You know, people say, oh, that's only 250 pounds of box squat from a deep box plus 125 chains, right? You're only moving around 375. Well, when you do it really fast for doubles and you do it again with a very, very short break, your heart rate and breathing stay up. There is a conditioning component. Okay, so what do we have so far? We have hypertrophy and we have conditioning. Hypertrophy and conditioning. In other words, people's body composition usually improves when they do this type of training. Because again, you're stimulating a lot of hypertrophy and you have a mild cardiovascular conditioning component. Well, that's a real good combination for people who, you know, want to improve body composition, isn't it? Right? What else do we have? Because we're doing large numbers of sets, we have more first reps. What's one of the techniques to learning how to perform these exercises? Practicing the setup, practicing the unracking, getting the first rep. Because when you're doing rep work, and we're talking about training for a 1 rep max, don't the reps look and feel completely different every single time? Right? If you do 5 sets of 3 or 5 sets of 5, you only get 5 first reps. In other words, you practice setting up and you practice doing the first rep, which is the one that looks closest to your 1 rep max, right? The only time you practiced it really was on the first rep each time. With this, it's very high set training. 8, 10, 12 sets on an exercise. How many first reps do you get? As many as you get sets. If you do 12 doubles, you did 12 first reps. Compare that with doing 3 sets of 5 or something else. 5 by 5. You only got 3 to 5 first reps. You get more practice setting up, more practice getting into position, bracing on all these lifts. You get more first reps. This gives you better practice for doing 1 rep maxes later. Okay, which of course we do maxes on max effort days for anyone who does this. But it's a practice component as well. Okay, there's a practice component which will help when you max out. So when you look at all of it, even if the speed part isn't true, what do we get? We get really good hypertrophy, we get conditioning, and we get practice with first reps. Speed work works even if speed work doesn't increase speed potential. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.